All right, good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kathleen Dion, and I will be giving the presentation this morning on LinkedIn, developing distinguishing profiles. And we're doing this presentation through Pivotal College Years. And I just wanted to point out to everyone that this information is also available after the fact by accessing it through the portal, which is free through the end of 2020. And there are a couple of handouts that are also being given out during this presentation that you can print and use later on. So if you go right to the handout section, it's usually in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. You can print them out and you'll have access to them. So, or you can save them as PDFs because one of them is actually two-sided, just to give you the heads up. So today we are talking about developing LinkedIn profiles as someone who is looking to attend college. And this is, bear with me a moment, here we go. This is what we've discovered is very important. So in our presentation today, we will talk about what LinkedIn is, because especially as a high school student, you might not have gotten that far and you might not even know what it is, or you've heard it in passing, but you haven't had an opportunity to check it out. So we'll do that together. We'll talk about why it's important, especially when it comes to college admissions and even moving forward. Starting now will only give you tools to work with when you are looking for part-time jobs, internships, and full-time jobs when you're done with college, which I know seems like a very long time from now, but in a blink, you will be there. Then we'll go over the steps to developing your profile. So there are some differences. I know everyone is very astute when it comes to social media, right? You've been using it, you are native users now, but LinkedIn is a little bit of a different animal than places like Instagram and Facebook, if you even still use that, and other online platforms. So we'll talk about what information should be there. And then once your profile is developed, I'll go over a few tricks about how to use it, because it can be very helpful in searching for volunteer opportunities, again, mentors, part-time jobs, but we'll cover that information. And we'll talk about networking, your research, and really building your brand, right? When you are trying to be accepted to a college, they are looking for a little, they're developing a community. So they're looking for all the puzzle pieces to develop the community. And those are the people that they're going to bring in to their new class. So it's a great tool to help showcase what you will contribute to a community, such as a college campus, but even moving forward, a company. So, all right, without further ado, if anybody has a question throughout the presentation, please feel free to type it right into the questions box. Again, it should be near the handouts box, so I will be keeping an eye on that as they come through. And then I also wanted to let you know that the session is being recorded, so you will have access to this again if you want to watch it again, maybe as you're working through your profile with the different categories. It might be helpful to just, listen in. So let's start with talking about what is LinkedIn. So like I said, many high school students haven't necessarily gotten there yet. It's very popular, so you might have heard the term, but it's basically a social networking tool or a platform, but it focuses on professional networking and career development. So it's not a place where you're chatting with your friends or you're posting your personal stuff. It is where your professional self lives. And I know it seems early, but when you are applying to college, you are starting your professional life. So it's time to start participating in it. And LinkedIn's a great way to do that. It's also a great tool to display things such as your resume and other accomplishments in other ways. You can add video content, you can add projects, and we'll go through all that together later. It's a great place for job searching. So again, later on when you're done with school, but also while you're in school. And it's a great tool. It's a platform, really, if it's used well, to enhance your professional reputation. And like I just said, when you are starting your journey into college, you are really starting your professional life. And why LinkedIn? What we've discovered it really is a great tool to help someone tell their story, and a story that an admissions committee would be interested in or a potential employer. Why it's really important as a high school student that as in 2018, Pew Research, they did a survey, conducted a survey, and they found out that only 9% of high school students are actually using LinkedIn. So it is a great way to separate yourself from the competition. Just the fact that you have made the choice, you know about it, and you've taken the time, it's a statement about you. In addition to that, it's a great one-stop place for people to learn about you. Um, by doing this now, this is going to be a tool that is developed over time. LinkedIn profiles usually aren't developed in a day. They are carefully crafted over time. Even when you have, that original profile developed, you're always adding to it, always making choices. If you finish a project, if you change a job, if you have some sort of experience, you win an award, you're going to go here and update this. So by starting it now, it's really going to start setting you up for career success because participating in your field of choice doesn't start upon graduation. It very much starts while you're in college. You're going to go to career events, so you can use LinkedIn to do research. You can use LinkedIn to connect to people. When you're searching for internships or jobs, it's a wonderful tool. So by starting now, you're really setting yourself up. You get to take control of your online narrative. Right? You're starting the story. You're in control of the story. This can be a great platform for you to tell great stories and to participate in your industry right from the beginning. And it is a fantastic professional networking tool. How you might use it now as someone who is just getting started in your industry is you might seek out mentors. I've actually I worked with a college student, and I love this story because she did it all on her own. I didn't even suggest it to her. She was an interior designer, and she wanted to work within set design, and she was on the East Coast, but she actually got in touch. She found somebody on LinkedIn at a company she wanted to work for. She reached out to them, they connected, and they actually started like a little mentor program. Once a month, they would have a meeting, and it was a fantastic relationship. It was a wonderful tool for her. She learned tons, and it turned into someone when she was done with school that she would reach out to for a job. So that's how you might start to use this. You can also search volunteer opportunities. You can find people. We always talk to students about immersing yourself in your field even before you get started. If you know you want to be a doctor someday, well, you want to probably do some volunteer hours or some job shadows, possibly an internship before you even enter college. LinkedIn is a great way to find people that might be able to help you do this. And that goes right along with informational interviews. Any students that have worked with me in the practice or worked with any career professional, informational interviews are a very important tool. So that's where you find somebody in your industry. You set up a time to speak to them and ask questions about who they are and what they do and what they love about their job, and what they don't love about their job, all those things. And LinkedIn can be a great tool to identify people that might be willing to do this with you. So for all of these reasons, we feel like starting your profile now will only help move you forward. So let's talk about getting started. So for quite a while, if you opened up a Gmail account, you kind of automatically got a LinkedIn, I think it was a Gmail account, you automatically got a LinkedIn profile, but most people didn't do anything with it. Or you may not have one at all. So to get started with LinkedIn, you need to go to linkedin.com. And this is the page that you're going to see. If you already have an account, you're actually going to go right here. Let me get my pen so I can circle that for you. So if you already have an account, you're going to go to sign in right there. And you're going to need your email address and your password. If you don't have a password, there is a way for you to get it, just like any other online account that you might have. What's really important is that if you already do have an account, you don't want to start a second one. It's hard to get profiles taken down, so I would spend a little time and dig that information out. If you do not have an account, you can go to Join Now. Even if you click the Join Now button and you put in an email that already has an account, it should stop you and let you know. And you can kind of take a step back and find out the passwords. What I would do is use an email address that you know you're going to always have access to. So for some students that wouldn't be your high school address, you might want to use a personal address. And people can contact you via email if you allow them to. So if you haven't already done so, you probably want to create an email address that is professional, probably the one that you would use to apply to scholarships. If you were reaching out to faculty members at a school that you were interested in, I always suggest to students try to get your name. Like for instance, my Gmail account is kathleendion@gmail.com. I was lucky enough to be able to get that many years ago. I know it's a little different now, but my advertising background says that's a little bit of branding. The more they see my name or type it in, the more likely they are to remember me. So that's what I always try to go for. If you can't get your name, sometimes you can do your name backwards, right? Your last name first, then your first name, or add a dot or a number, but just keep in mind you want to keep it easy. You don't want one that is pushing people toward making spelling mistakes, and make sure that it absolutely is professional. So once you get your profile up and running, they're going to ask, many questions. It'll take a little time, so this isn't something you're going to do in 5 minutes, but get your account up and running, and then you'll be ready to develop your profile. The great news is there are tons of tools available to develop your LinkedIn profile. I included a couple here. There's LinkedIn University. I'm gonna try to get rid of my pen. Oh, if I can. There's LinkedIn University, and then there is a profile checklist. And these are the items, the profile checklist I actually added to the handouts, and that's really helpful. We'll go through the information together, but let me just click on this quick, and of course, hang on. Pardon me for one moment. I'm just going to click and show you the link. So LinkedIn University actually brings you right here. So these are tools that were developed for higher ed professionals to help students. So there's a lot of information in here. And this will show you how to develop profiles. It will show you how to look up jobs. It will show you how to, once you are tied to a university, seek out alumni and things like that. So that's a very useful tool. And then I'm going to show you the profile checklist. And then right here, it's a bit of a long link. So this we will go off of, but this is the document that I gave you to print. And it talks about the different categories. And there are all different profile suggestions. This is one that is actually suggested for high school students. So it's a great one for you to go off of. For instance, if you were, if you were accidentally going to the one that was for, higher level executives or someone with a lot of work experience, they would have different recommendations. So I would definitely use this checklist at this point. And then as you move forward in your career, you can make adjustments. All right. So you're not alone, you have help. And if you are getting help within the practice, you have Shelly and myself. All right, so let's go down the list and let's talk about the different categories, because I think, again, because LinkedIn is developing the professional you, and when I taught this class at the college level, I think that honestly was the biggest shift. This no longer is your Insta account where you're sharing information with your friends. This is the professional you. So you want to look at it from a different perspective. I mention it at the end, but I'll also mention it again at the beginning. Do a little research on LinkedIn. So once you have your account up and running, you can do a little research, but if you find a few examples that you like, there is nothing wrong with using that as a guide for yourself. So if you find someone that is interested in the same things as you, are you going to be a chemical engineering student and you find someone who does chemical engineering and you like the headline that they've used, there's nothing wrong with making sure that the information is accurate to you, but kind of using that information as a guide. So first and foremost, you do need a picture. People go on LinkedIn, it is networking, it is online networking, but they want to see a picture of you. What this needs to be is it needs to be a high quality photo. It needs to be a photo that you really have put together for LinkedIn. What you don't want it is, a picture of your friends and you are, arms around each other and you can tell that you had to cut it out. And you want to be in appropriate clothing. So, a picture, for instance, where you're in a tank top, right? And you were just outside on a summer day, it might be a great face shot, but the clothing wouldn't be appropriate. So you want to be on the professional side of things. I always tell students, shoulders covered. If you can have, a button down, great. You're not expected to be professionals. You're not yet. You're getting there, but you want to start going down that road. You want to be facing forward, and you want to be smiling. I have seen some students or in college who, for instance, were animators or, in very specific areas where they might have done a caricature of themselves. I think at this point, you're not quite there yet. A photo is a great way to go. Not to say that you have to go out and hire a photographer to do this. You can certainly take a photo on your iPhone, but make sure that you're up against a good color, right? That is suits you well. It's not crazy stuff behind you. So do a little bit of production and or some art direction and make it work for you. You want to choose a headline. So the headline here, I'm going to actually go back and forth to this document because I think it will help you understand. So the headline sits right here underneath your name. And what they want you to do is to write something that makes people understand what direction you're going in. So you're not an engineer yet, if that's what you're going to study, but you're an aspiring engineer, right? Maybe you're a three-time I don't know, javelin champion, right? And a three-time javelin champion who, aspires to be, in marketing or, think of something interesting about yourself and put it in the headline. The headline isn't set in stone and it doesn't stay the same for the rest of your life, but it's what makes sense now for where you're at in your journey. The summary is going to involve some writing skills. A few things that I need to say about the summary because I've viewed a lot of summaries over the years. Be grammatically correct, use proper capitalization and punctuation. It doesn't have to be a book, it can be a few sentences, it could be a paragraph. But you want to talk about what motivates you, what your skills are, especially for you as a high school student. What's next, right? What are you aspiring to? What are your goals? And I'll show you that summary. Sorry, I'm toggling back and forth. I hope nobody gets motion sick, but here we go. So you can see right here, this summary, not super long. And, the summary is a unique feature because you could add some personal stuff. But again, when you're thinking about what is appropriate for a LinkedIn profile, think about what would you talk if you have a job, right? What would be appropriate conversation with your boss or your manager, right? What would be appropriate conversation with a professor at a university? If you have any question about what that is, I would encourage you to ask around, right? Your parents, your teachers, they are all good sounding boards for information like this. All right. Moving forward, work and volunteer experience. So when I work with students getting them ready to go to college, we always create a brag sheet or a resume. So I use these terms interchangeably because of my background. So when I say one, I also mean the other. Um, so your resume or your brag sheet is usually a limited amount of space that you have to talk about your experiences. So they have to be very focused on presenting information that is important to the audience that that document is being sent to. And although you might list everything out, maybe you're only going to speak at length about certain things, right? You might speak more, again, if you're going to be a robotics engineer, or you might speak more about your robotics club projects, right? You might actually have a paragraph about that. But your summer camp job that you've had for a few seasons, you might only have one line about. What's nice about LinkedIn is there is no length requirement, and actually people, when they look at your LinkedIn profile, are expecting more information. So it's a great place to be able to put it all out there. And then you can order it. So you could put the most important things at the top and then move down from there. So you have control over that. But you want to list the jobs that you've held. You want to, even if they're part-time, which most high school students, if they have a job, it is part-time. And you want to think about what your responsibilities and your accomplishments were. But you don't want to just be mundane. If you were a cashier, we get that you ran a cash register. But if you accurately, completed transactions up to $10,000 a day, on, was it Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, that's something I would want to talk about, right? That's something above and beyond what a typical cashier might be able to do. So think about those things, make notes, and refine the message that you're sending. You can also include photos and videos of your work. So, maybe you built houses for Habitat for Humanity, and there's a picture of you and the 5 other people in your t-shirts for the organization that you worked for. You could add that. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with your profile. So consider doing these things. I will also say that when you're adding volunteer work or anything connected to another company or organization, connect it to their LinkedIn profile. So when you're entering the information, you should be able to see if they have a page. And if they do, make sure to connect it, because the image, the logo will actually show up. And I'll show you on my profile at the end, just as an example. And from a visual perspective, it really does make it look a lot better. Honors and awards, same thing. If the group that gave you, if you got an award for being a Girl Scout or a Cub Scout, they probably have a LinkedIn profile. Make sure it's connected. But think about all the things that you've accomplished over the years. Again, for most of the things that you're going to be talking about happened in high school. However, things like Boy Scouts, and then you translated and you grew into an Eagle Scout, for instance, might have something that you've done since the 5th grade. And that's okay, as long as it's still going on now. But think about prizes that you've won. If you got perfect attendance at your school, talk about it. So again, you might want to include siblings, friends, family, and just be like, look, let's make a list. Please help me remember everything that was in there. You can also list projects. And I think this is a great way to showcase your skills, what you've done. If you led a team on an assignment, you want to talk about these things. If you've been, part of clubs that you've worked on pretty cool projects, you could definitely put them in here and, have some information about it. You could have pictures, you could have videos. If you won an award, you could list it in here. So flesh it out as much as you can. You want to talk about coursework. So you're not going to list every class that you've ever taken in high school, because we kind of know what's required. That said, AP, honors coursework, definitely, right? Kind of above and beyond. Special projects. Again, if you are going to study forensic science and you took a couple of forensic science electives, list them in here, right? So think of it from the perspective of what is the reader going to learn about me that might make them want to take me on at their college, right? Want me to study there, or if it's for a job. So list these things, but don't feel like you have to list that I took, English 1, English 2, English 3, but if there's a specific English that you took that really advocates for you and makes you seem like a premier candidate, whether it be for admissions or a job, definitely put it in there. Skills is another category that you're going to be working on. I think you want to have at least 5 key skills, and these are actually searchable criteria. So you can list your skills, and what's great about skills is once you start to develop your network, you can actually be endorsed for your skills. So maybe you put customer service as a skill, and then you connect to your boss at Target. If they look at their LinkedIn profile, your information might pop up on their side because you're connected and say, do you endorse, Maria for her customer service skills? And if they say yes, that also shows up on your side. So it's a great way to start to really help each other out and it gives you a little bit more credibility. What I wouldn't do when you start to get to skills and you start to develop your network, my students in college used to do this all the time. They would endorse every skill their friend had multiple times. It's a nice gesture, but it shows up on their side and it doesn't look awesome because it's only one person that endorsed them over and over again. It starts to look a little suspect. So don't do that to your friend, and don't let your friend do that to you. But just keep that in mind, what it's going to look like on the other side. And I'm actually seeing a question coming in, so I'm going to stop. So is it appropriate to post LinkedIn or other social media, i.e. Twitter, when listing an award if the organization posted it? Yes. So if you are active on other social media platforms, which I would imagine everyone is, I think I'm understanding your question right. Yeah, if you want to tweet that, go right ahead. If you want to post it on Facebook, absolutely. At the end of the day, these will start to work together. So if someone Googles your name, I don't know if you've ever done that exercise, they'll start to see all the LinkedIn platforms that you participate in, or excuse me, not LinkedIn, but social media platforms that you participate in. And if you have that information in multiple places, that's a good thing, I think. If that's not the answer, if I didn't answer that the right way, please type it in again, and I will give it another go. But I hope that helps. All right, and then organizations. So clubs, sports, anything. So a little bit different than volunteer. So volunteer, community service, experience, things like that, or would, I think, live in that category. Organizations are about like clubs at school, extracurricular activities, right? So you want to describe what you did. If you held any leadership positions, please don't hold back. Let us know, especially from the college perspective. They are looking for people who have had positions like that. If you are part of DECA, if you're part of the robotics team, if you're part of, things like that, you definitely want to list that. Even if you're part of the chess club or you're part of debate club, if you have studied music or you are part of a regional swim team, right? Maybe not the school team, but something on a regional or a local level, you want to definitely list these things. Again, just like before, if they have a LinkedIn profile, make sure you connect if you can. If not, absolutely still add it, but I'll show you the difference from a visual perspective. Education, you're definitely going to add education. At this point, you're just listing your high school. Middle school and elementary school just aren't as important to people. So you're going to list the school name, the city, the state. If you've gone out on summer programs at different schools, a lot of For instance, I've worked with students in the New England area that took, summer art programs through RISD, for instance, Rhode Island School of Design. You would want to list those types of things. And finally, recommendations. Oh, and education you will update as you go. So once you are starting college, you will add your college, right? And that would be first because that's your most recent. You would add your major. But for now, you're listing high school. If you attended more than one high school, um, it's really not important to list the other high school unless there's some specific value to it in your goal of getting accepted to college. So same thing with college. If you transferred from one school to the other, they really want to know about the school that you are attending currently and really the one that you will earn your credential from, whether it be a diploma or a degree. So unless there's some very specific reason that you feel like you need to add it, just the current school that you're attending. And recommendations. So recommendations are like letters of reference. They're not that long, they're usually a few lines, but it's someone who has worked with you before or knows you. And teachers work with you, classmates work with you, right? It's education, but it's work. But they get to speak about you and potentially recommend you. This is, the best case scenario. So you usually have to ask for recommendations. So you want to make sure that your profile is up and running. So when people take a look at it, they get reminded of how great you are. And then you could reach out to people and ask them. Again, you don't need 50 recommendations. Even if you just had one or two, fantastic. You can gain more as you move forward. What you can't do is put a recommendation in for someone else. Obviously, they would need to be in their profile to be giving you a recommendation. You also have to be connected to that person on their network. So you would have to, the thing about LinkedIn is it works very much like other social media. To actually be connected to someone, like a first level connection, you have to give permission. So you either ask them and they say yes, or they ask you and you say yes. And that's how you get connected. But you do need to be connected to someone to actually get a recommendation from them. So managers, teachers, classmates, people that they could certainly write you a recommendation. I would probably stay away from personal recommendations. This isn't a place for mom to be connected to you and tell the world what a great child you have been. But again, if it's someone that you've worked with, then in some capacity, that is a good option. All right, so I'm actually going to open, well, we'll go over the tips and then I'm going to open up my profile so we can just take a quick tutorial together. So tips, you want to create a unique LinkedIn URL and you want to add this link to your resume. And I will show you how to do this. So when you automatically create a LinkedIn profile, LinkedIn is going to assign you a URL. And it's not pretty because they have millions upon millions of LinkedIn profiles. But what you do have the ability to do is change it and make it more easily typed in and easy to memorize. So it's much easier for you to work with. I would highly recommend finding examples. Like I mentioned before, look on LinkedIn, see other profiles that you like and use it as a guide. It will help give you some ideas because much like a resume, when you're looking at the blank page, it seems like an unsurmountable project. You're never going to get it done. Good grief, what am I going to speak about? But if you look at examples, it'll help you get started and then the floodgates just open. You want to adjust your settings and privacy. So, how others see your LinkedIn activity is what we're after. So I'll show you that in a minute. When you're active on LinkedIn, they will continuously ask you to upgrade to the Premier membership, and that's not necessary, especially at your level. So the free membership is absolutely fine. And I find it extremely helpful to download the LinkedIn app on my phone and get updates that way. So instead of me having to physically go into LinkedIn and access information that way, I have it so it can just pop up. And when someone's trying to contact me that way, or I can see activity, you can just access it that way. It makes things a lot easier. All right, so before we talk about networking, let's just go out and take a quick tour. So this is the rest of the sheet, and these are all the categories that we discussed together. So as I spoke about before, when you are, well, let's see. So this is experience. See how the Best Buy tag is there? That's because they are connected to Best Buy, which is, like I said, the best visual possible scenario. These are the courses. You see this person did not add 57 classes that they took for all 4 years of high school. They included the important ones that separate them from, right, the competition who's trying to get into college. Skills, they have, several skills listed. These are the people that have endorsed them. That's what I'm saying. If you have that one same friend that endorsed you for every category, it's going to be painfully obvious, especially when you've just joined LinkedIn because you don't have other endorsements posted there. Right, here's another example of this is volunteer work, right, in here. And then this is a recommendation, right, that someone, so they're Best Buy, say they work at Best Buy up here. And then down here is their manager who spoke about them. And perfect, just enough. And this is an example of a photo. I know you saw it before, but I just wanted to point it out. As you see, that's not an indoor, paid for professional photo. It's just a nice picture of that person's face. And it's professional enough where it absolutely works. Also make sure that it's not pixelated. So, make sure it's decent quality when you upload it. It's a little bit easier because it's an online photo ultimately. So it doesn't have to be an amazing shot. And with the cameras these days, that's usually not an issue, but make sure it represents you well. Now let's just take a quick look. I'm going to go to LinkedIn and I'm just going to show you my LinkedIn profile just so you can see some differences. I want to show you where you can make adjustments. So right here, I actually had this picture drawn of myself. They used it from a picture and then they did it, enhanced it with computer, and that's what I choose to use. As you see my headline, lots of different things in there. Right? My about section, I'm a little, I've been in the business for a long time, so I got a lot more to say, but it's still not a book. Right? So you can see all different things, right? You see, so here's an example of a connected company. And here's an example of a non-connected company. So see why you would want that visually to be connected. That definitely looks a lot better if possible. I couldn't find one for here. Federal government didn't have theirs. So let me show you how to edit your URL, which I think is so important. So when you're in your profile, you're going to go right up here to the right-hand side. And you're going to click on that. And as you see, I have already customized mine. In the beginning, I don't even know what it was. It sounds like, AB 2748 hut, hut, hut. And it's something I never, ever would have remembered. But what I was able to do was to get my name. So again, much like your Gmail account, if you're going to create an email or, through another email service, you want to try to use your name if possible. So same tactic. If you can use your name moving, first name then last name, great. If you're going to just put maybe an underscore, if there needs to be a character in there, or if you need to do it backwards, so just do something that is memorable if possible. Right here, right, you can edit your visibility, so you can control what people are seeing, or what people are seeing. So right, I want people to be able to see. This is basic, this is required, right? Your name. So this is what the public can see, right? And I have choices about this. I don't have my groups available for people to see, but I have my organizations, I have my honors, but I could turn any one of these off, right? I could turn my projects off, turn it back on, my publications off and turn it back on. So you do absolutely have choices about this, and just be aware of that. So we're going to go back to the profile. And then I'm going to show you where you can control your privacy settings because I think it's really important. So right here, right where your picture is, you just click on that, drop down menu comes down, and then you can go to settings and privacy. And this is where you have the ultimate control. You can block people on LinkedIn if you want to. There's a variety of things. So just be aware um, of who you're communicating with. And oh, everyone's online. Good grief. All right, hang on. We're getting there. So privacy and settings. Let's see where. There we go. All righty. So we are in. So all of these all of these categories: privacy, ads, communication. Right? So right now, edit your public profile, choose how your profile appears on to non-logged in members, see who can change who can see your email address, right? So the email address that you have attached, I'm a business person. I want other business people to be able to reach out to me. So if you want them to be able to reach out to you to your email, you can have it in there. Or if you want to be a little more private, you could have that hidden as someone who's still in high school. Maybe this is a conversation you want to have with your parents, what their level of comfort is with you, and your openness of communication. So I would definitely touch base with them. Who can see your connection? So you really do have a lot of control. You could even set it up where people can't see your last name, right? If you just want them to see your first name. So you have a lot of different things. What I wanted to show is this section right here, how others see your LinkedIn activity. So what they're seeing. So basically when you're looking at someone's profile, you're leaving a footprint behind, and you can control what people can see of you. So when I view someone's profile, they see, this is what I have selected. That's what they see of me, right? They see everything. I want them to know. They also have private characteristics where you would leave a footprint, but it wouldn't be your specific information. It would just say someone at XYZ organization or, viewed your profile. Or you could view anonymously. I will say that if you are in the process of building your profile and you are using someone else's profile as a guide, you might want to be anonymous. Or if you're about to have a job shadow with someone and it comforts you to log into their LinkedIn profile 4 times a day for the week before that you're going on your shadow just to learn about them, you might want to do that anonymously. Otherwise, every time you log into their profile, they're probably going to get an update about it. Not that you want to be secretive, but you don't want to necessarily seem like a stalker. And you can change this setting at any point. So maybe when you're done building your profile and you have been looking at this person's profile on a regular basis, you can go back to, your regular um, self, but while you're building, you're in private mode. It's completely up to you. But I just did want to show you that option. And I always pointed that out to my college students, especially when they were going to be doing interviewing, because it's a very stressful time. And many of them were comforted by viewing their interviewers' profile over and over again. And we just wanted to make sure that the relationship started on the right foot. All right, so hopefully that little tutorial helps. I don't see any questions come in, but if you have any, please do not hesitate to type them in now. All right, so now we're going to move on to networking, research, and branding. So once you have your profile up and running, then you can start to use it to connect with people. So again, I'm going to use my profile just because it's already going. So you see over here, I can see that 22 people viewed my profiles. I wrote an article that 22 people viewed. On my side, I can see all the groups that I, belong to. So what you want to do is start to use the information up here. I've developed a network. I've got 535 people that I am connected to. You can have contacts. There are people and things that you can follow. So I wanted to point out a few things. When your profile is up and running, and for instance, you are interested in going to a certain college, right? I do this all the time. We'll do UMass Dartmouth. So you can find people that have worked at UMass Dartmouth, but you can also see jobs that are available at UMass Dartmouth. Um, Here is company results, right? So here are pages that you can follow. So here's the library, here's the Center for Innovation, here's just UMass Dartmouth in general. So you can actually follow schools, you can follow companies, and some people will let you follow them. So it's a great way to start to reach out to community and start to get information. So if I'm following UMass Dartmouth on LinkedIn, there course, there are no posts there, but there are, some schools are more active than others, but they might even, a smaller school might even have an admissions page that you can follow. And maybe you can start to connect. There's something called demonstrated interest that some schools are looking at, right? And it's your participation in their activities before you even get admitted to the school. So it might be a way to learn about activities that they're running, updates about the school in general. So you could definitely, follow schools or companies, or maybe someday you want to work for Johnson and Johnson, right? Johnson and Johnson. Here we go. Johnson and Johnson Healthcare. Right up here, the scientific director comes up. You can get people, but let's look at the company itself, right? You can get a lot of information. Sometimes there are HR pages specifically, so maybe you want to start learning about internship opportunities. They might run, a couple of years from now, while you get in school. But you can follow, you can visit websites. You can also see what other people are following. So, right, if you're following Johnson and Johnson, here are other companies that do very, potentially similar things that you might also be interested in. So you can definitely use it as a research tool. It's a way to find alumni. So you can find, so I used to work at Johnson & Wales, and then I'm also a graduate of Johnson & Wales. So you can seek out Johnson & Wales alumni as well. So there's a lot of different ways to use LinkedIn. Um, Above and beyond just presenting your information, that will definitely help you in your research. So maybe you were considering going to a certain school and you wanted to speak to someone that had graduated with, the business degree that you were interested in at a certain school. You could find that person and reach out to them and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. Could we set up a conversation? I'd love to ask you some questions. There's more than likely the answer might be yes. So this is a great way to get information. So I just wanted to point out those few things, but it really does begin with creating that profile. So now is a great time to get started. I know we're all at home and we're hoping to be able to do fun things again really soon. But while we can't, I say, get started, involve the family and friends because they might remember things about your accomplishments or what you've done to, help flesh out the page. And, find us on LinkedIn and connect to managers, teachers, professors, and start to really lay the groundwork for hopefully your admission success, but beginning that career success now. And unless I see any other questions roll in, I think that's it. All right, so everyone, that is it for our presentation today. As I mentioned before, all of this information is also available on Pivotal College Years, the college planning portal for families as well, and it's free through the end of 2020. As well, the handouts have been supplied to you, and I will be putting the recording together, and you will have that within 24 hours. So I guess everyone have a lovely rest of your Memorial Day weekend. Have a great day.